Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the SIMGOT EA500LM. This is a soon to be released IEM from SIMGOT, a continuation or an updated version of the original EA500. And as far as I'm aware of, and as far as I was told, this is basically the pre-production, pre-full production version of it. So I am assuming that there won't be much difference between what I heard, or any difference, if that, between what I heard and what you guys will be hearing. Anyway, this is the box. It brings this, it always brings these very interesting themes in terms of their design. Much nicer, to be honest, than what we get from those waifus and so on. But to each its own. Those that like that sort of stuff, I guess that's what rocks their boat. Anyway, the box is, let me just try and see if I can remove it here. There we go. All right, so in the front, it's got this nice mural design, whatever you want to call it. In the back, it's got some information about the actual LM, namely, the usual characteristics and two of the graphs that the LM supposedly will give us, or will do. As for the main section, you open it up, you got the IM sitting over there. Inside that little box are the part of the accessories, and this one the carrying case and the cable. I'll actually show you the stock cable, because I'm not using the stock cable. There we go. This is the stock cable. It's look, I'm not sure 100% about the price. I heard $70, I've heard $80, but it's going to be somewhere around that. For that price, I guess this is acceptable. I did measure the cable. It actually didn't measure too bad, but I mean, there are IEMs out there which do offer better cables, but I guess ultimately the main chunk of the money was spent on the actual IEM and the driver. So most of us, or a majority of us that do buy the LM, I think will upgrade the cable to something that pleases them more. If not for any other reason, at least visually will please them more. But anyway, that's the box. Nice, simple, always very classy, always very SIMGOT in its presentation. Okay, as for the EA500LM, well, it's the same shell as the original EA, just that it's got this more smoke color to it. Okay, there's seems to be a slight, very slight, let me just grab the EA500. There seems to be a slight difference there in the vents, but I can't really, it just seems to, I don't know, it seems that this one here has got more holes in this grill than in this grill. That's the only thing that I seem to be detecting. I could be wrong, but that's what I at least see. The shell is full metal. It's got a nice build. It's got a nice weight to it. It looks the part. It looks way more expensive than what it is. Obviously, the nozzles are removable, and the nozzles offer different tunings, and that's the whole secret behind it. The carrying case, just quickly show it to you, does bring, I've got here the rest of the tips, which are like these type of LED short tips, and then the nozzles themselves. These two gold nozzles are two gold nozzles that I did my own tuning for, but so it brings a set of these silver ones with the black O-rings, silver ones with the red O-ring, and then the gold ones, which are the ones that I have on. What more can I say? It just looks very, very smart. That's it. If you've got an EA500, then you know what this is going to be looking like. It's just a darker color. Other than that, it just looks very, very smart, way more upscale than what a lot of the stuff at this price point actually costs, and way more expensive stuff even. So it just looks the part. The cable that I'm using is IVipQ, if I'm not mistaken. No, actually, this one's an XINHS. I've also got a similar one from IVipQ. This is a XINHS graphene cable, and I like this cable. I like the way sonically it just introduces its subtle nuance to the sound. So that's it. I've got the LM. Obviously, I had to have the EA. Obviously, I've got here two EA1000s. Why two EA1000 formats? Well, because one is using the red nozzle, which is the one I like, and the one it's using my custom nozzle, let's put it that way, that I've done. Something similar to what I also did on the EA500. I've also got another EA500 which has got a custom nozzle to it. But anyway, that's that. And then I've got here another IM which I've always very much appreciated and I've always liked very much, but it keeps getting forgotten, which is the HE10 from Wizard. This is a very, very nice IM. And then I had to bring out my Oxygen because it's always been kind of like my reference. And if the EA500 was for me the most solid IM to replace the Oxygen, especially when you consider that the EA500 was $70 roughly, and that was an achievement. I had to bring it out. I had to bring it out to compare it here with the LM and see what the LM is capable of. Anyway, let's just jump straight into this and position the LM. The EA500, well, a lot has been said about it, but in essence, it's got a hell of a lot of detail. Very nicely done, mids, upper mids, and treble. Some people complained about it being perhaps a little bit too intense in the upper mids and treble, and also that it didn't have enough bass. Yes, it does have a slight sub bass roll off, but to my ears, and I've always said this, even without modifying it, which is the case of this one here, it is more than capable of satisfying my music library and giving it the desired energy and clarity and dynamics that I need to just listen to whatever I like listening to, in a comfortable way. I mean, La Belle Dansant's Regrets from Chris Botti, which is a song which can showcase a little bit of that aggressiveness or that over intensity that the upper mids and treble has. The EA500 does it beautifully. I mean, that trumpet that he plays, especially there at around 1 minute 20 to 1 minute 35, it never offended me in the EA500. It gets strong, but it doesn't hurt me, it doesn't offend me, it's not harsh or anything. So I've always thought that the EA500 was very, very nicely tuned. And even when I compared it to the Oxygen, I only saw an ever so slight advantage in the overall tonality and tone of the Oxygen over the EA500. But when I factored in the price, that one was $250, $280 at one point actually, and this was roughly 70. I think the most expensive this was 79. When you factor in that huge price gap, this does not offer those many more times more performance than the EA500. So the EA500 was, and I said it at the time, the poor man's, let's say the poor man with poor man's cheap, poor man's Oxygen. Okay, and I stand by that. In contrast, the HE10 gave very much the same sort of sound as the EA500, but added a little bit more bass. And by adding a little bit more bass, and perhaps because the driver as well wasn't a driver, although it's a CNT driver that uses a DLC, maybe the driver is just not of the same overall quality level of the driver in the SIMGOT. It doesn't have the same clarity in the mids, upper mids, and treble. Fair enough, again I repeat, there's more bass here, so that helps cloud it down as well. But even if I was to EQ it down slightly, it doesn't have that clarity that particular driver has. But the difference is not monumental, and I've always thought that this was a good alternative for those that like the sound here but wanted a little bit more bass. So the HE10 would be the perfect alternative. Okay, enter the EA1000 format after the EN1000 and the EA2000, and they kind of did the same sort of tuning as there. It's got the passive radiator helping out, and with the red nozzle, which is the one that I've got here, and it's the one that I like the most, it sounds absolutely phenomenal. I mean, again, it's questionable if the $219 are enough to justify that big price gap to the EA500? In my opinion, ultimately, I think yes, because it basically gives us the same clarity, the same detail, but with that added bass, and that added bass doesn't take away any of that clarity, doesn't take away any of that, and just brings this very nice tonality, this very nice timbre to the whole presentation. Okay, compared to the Oxygen, it is a better IM than the Oxygen. It's as simple as that. There's no need for me to beat around the bush and try and complicate things. It is a better IM than the Oxygen. So a definite choice. I retuned this one slightly, just gave it a little bit of my own little mojo, and I think that my retuned one, for me at least, it is even better. It's even nicer sounding. That I get more. I get more that timbre, that tonality that I like. Ladell Done Sans Remorse, like I was just mentioning, it sounds sounds perfect on either version, but on there I just get that little extra smoothness that I like. It's minimal, and I have to be really under very excellent listening conditions to pick up on it. It's not when I go outside on a walk or something that I will pick up on it, but if I'm in my living room or in my office and I'm listening to music, and then I will pick up on those very slight differences. The EA500LM takes cues from the EA1000 and takes cues from the EA500 and merges them in a very, very nice way. The other two nozzles I didn't particularly like, the silver nozzles. The gold nozzle, I think, is the one that does that marriage the best. It brings the same sort of bass as the EA1000. I've heard some people saying that the bass is even superior to the EA1000. I don't think so. Yes, this lithium magnesium driver, that's I believe what the LM stands for, is an excellent driver, and probably even a superior driver to the driver used in the EA1000 and in the EA500. But it doesn't give me more bass. If anything, maybe what it does give me in the LM is a bass which is slightly more, but ever so slightly more resolving. That's the only thing. Fair enough, if I have to take into consideration that I've got a passive radiator actually helping that driver out, then okay, then I would say that perhaps this here is a better execution of bass than there. But we have to compare it as they are. That with the passive radiator helping it out, doing whatever it's doing there, and this the way it is. And I don't think the bass here is better than there. They are very equal bass, with just a slight more cleanliness or quickness here, and there I would say a little bit more of a fuller sound. But they basically, they cancel each other out. What that one there slightly does better, this one does in another aspect, so they basically cancel out. Bass wise they equal. The mids up until the point where the pinna gain really becomes prominent, so I would say like around, let's say 1500 2000 hertz, they're very similar. And then this one does have substantially more energy in the upper mids and treble than both the EA500 and the EA1000. But the interesting thing, and that's I think the thing that's magical, or that gives the LM its magic, is that if this level and the mid and the upper mids and treble level was lower, but people were complaining about it being maybe a little bit too intense. If here we have the same treble, but now it's more balanced out. Here we have way more upper mids and treble, so you would think that this would be more intense because we basically got the same bass level as there. And the interesting thing is that they actually still match each other very nicely. So this was bass light and treble and upper frequency more intense. This gave to that upper frequency and treble of the EA500, the necessary bass to balance it out. This one has more upper mids and more treble than that with the same bass, so you would assume that it was going to be brighter sounding or more intense sounding, and no, it still maintains the same sort of balance of equilibrium, and which makes male vocals and female vocals absolutely fantastic. Instruments, you know, come across beautifully. Guitars, trumpets, saxes, everything is done very, very well. The timbre and the tonality is good, although how can I try and explain this? The timbre and the tonality here is perfect. It is very well executed, but it sounds a little bit more clinical. The timbre and tonality in the EA1000 sounds more organic, more true. The timbre and the tonality on the EA500 is again pending towards a little bit more towards the clinical side, but not as clinical as the LM. Okay. In terms of its technicality, soundstage, imaging, detailed retrieval is phenomenal. Imaging, very good distinction between instruments, between several voices if you have several voices, positioning, very nice, very nice. Soundstage as well, big, airy, lots of space. So technically very capable. The frequency response distribution, very well done, very capable, especially with the gold nozzle, like I'm saying. There's really no fault that I can put it, because, you know, at $70 or $80, I'm not, like I said before, I'm not really sure what the price will be. There's very little that I can point as a negative, because it gives me a performance which is better than the original. Not a lot better than the original, but there is definitely an improvement over the original. If you've modded the original, then I would say that doesn't make sense to get this one. But if you haven't modded the original, I would say, okay, this is perhaps a worthwhile upgrade. Sell this one and get this one because it's got more bass. It's got a cleaner bass. Okay, fine. So this is better than the original, better than the Oxygen. So this is an outright better IM than the Oxygen, better than the HE10. It is. Let's be frank, and it gives me, I would say 95% of the performance of 95% of the performance of the EA1000, with the benefit that it costs a third. So if it costs a third, this is the better option. This is the better IM out of all of them over here. It now all depends if the sound that it obviously gives is the one that also suits you the most. And like I just said a few moments ago, if you want a bit of a more organic kind of sound, then the EA1000. If you want definitely a more clinical sound with being bass-like, then the EA500. If you want a very good compromise between that clinical presentation and then that organic presentation as well, with an added touch of cleanliness, especially noticeable in the bass, then the LM. So it's not like there is monumental differences here between the three of them. There isn't, and when I show the graphs, you'll also see that graphically. You know, I can't sit here and say with, you know, no, the LM just blows the EA500 out of the water and all the other IMs, and this is the one you must get now. No, forget that. I'm not going to say that, because that isn't the case. Now that it is the one that makes the most sense, definitely, that I will agree. Okay, fair enough, you can make a valued argument here for the EA1000. You know, it's got the passive radiator, so that makes it kind of very unique. It's got a nicer faceplate, and so, okay, fair enough. How much that will justify the price difference, again, is something that will very much depend on you. But that's it. I mean, guys, solid IM, really solid IM. I think it's going to be, if the EA500 was already an IM, that kind of set very much a benchmark by which other IMs at under $100 would have to be compared, and even more expensive IMs. The LM is definitely going to be that benchmark for at least the first months of 2024. Any other company wanting to release an IM under the $100 that wants to outright obliterate or beat or come close to the performance of the LM, they have to do their homework. I mean, I recently reviewed the Tipsy X EPZ star and one. Absolutely fantastic IM. By comparison to the LM, and I just didn't compare it yet, but I'm trying to make a point here. By comparison to the LM, very different. That sounds by comparison, although marketed as a monitoring IM and so on and so forth, I found it to be a mutually warm musical kind of IM, very unfatiguing. It's absolute pleasure to listen to the Star in One. Trust me, absolute pleasure. But somehow I get the feeling that more people will perhaps be enjoying the LM over the Star in One, because it just has, it's just got this magic in terms of the upper mids and treble, that is very engaging, you know. And you wouldn't think that by looking at the graph. You would actually think, oh, this is going to be a little bit intense, and no, it just has this. I did some comparisons briefly with the Butas Tour and the Night Oblivion Butas Tour, and with the Tansio Mirai Halo, which are obviously way more expensive IEMs than this, and those IEMs have that sort of upper mids and treble that I'm talking about, that clean detail. It's clinical, yes, but it's just got this magic about it, which is very intoxicating, very engaging, and this has that, and it's a single DD, and you know, you listen to it and you are very impressed by how much detail is there, how much cleanliness in there, and it's just a single driver doing that, you know. So that's very impressive, very impressive. Anyway, guys, I'll show you now the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section for the EA500LM. This is the three graphs with the three different nozzles. The graph with the silver nozzle and black O-ring, this is the graph for it. So it's got a bit more of those peaks, the ups and downs at 3 past 5 and so on. The silver nozzle with the red O-ring gives me this presentation that I'm showing you now. So it kind of smooths those peaks out and so on. And then the gold nozzle is kind of the same as the previous one, just a little bit more energetic. And it loses a little bit as well on the base. So let me just put those two. So you can see that it loses a little bit in the base, gains a little bit over there. But the reality is that it sounds very good. I mean, between the two of them, there isn't that much of a difference, to be honest. But it just appealed to me more the one with the gold nozzle. This is the one that I just enjoyed the most. Okay, so this is the one that I will be using for the rest of the comparisons here. The base, as you can see, very nicely done. Everything sits within a window of roughly 8 dBs, if I'm not mistaken. Exactly 8 dBs in terms of the base. A way more significant pin again for the mids. We're talking about here roughly 12 dBs. But the interesting thing, like I mentioned earlier, is somehow I don't know what it was that it did, or what it is that it has there. It doesn't sound as energetic as the graph would lead you to believe, and it's got plenty of then extension past 10K with that nice sensation of space and air and so on and so forth. Anyway, the one that I'm going to show you now, this is the original EA500, which people complained about. It's too bass light, too energetic here, but as you can see by now comparing the graph, there's a lot more energy there on the LM, and yes, it does have less bass, but funny enough, when you actually listen to them, the differences are not as huge as what the graph would again show you. Yes, you do notice there's a little bit more rumble, a little bit more weight on the base of the LM, but if you look carefully, that roll off, it really only starts happening at about 35 hertz. So that little bit of a roll off that you have there doesn't really affect the meat of the bass and the mid bass on the EA500. Okay, and then mids, upper mids and treble, usually we look at that ratio between the peak of the bass, and let's take 50 hertz, and then we take, let's say, 3 kilohertz, and we're talking about a difference here of 83, 87, 4 dBs. Let's do the same thing now for the EA500, so it's 80, 84 as well. So again, 4 dBs. So that similarity in the sound that I was telling you about is very much there. It's very, very much there. But yes, the LM500, the EA500LM does have a little bit more clarity in the bass, a little more cleanliness, it's a little bit more snappier in the bass, and the upper mids and treble especially are as well cleaner, a little bit more detailed without having that perhaps tendency of being unpolished. Okay, so the LM is the better IM of the two, I would say that much. If however you do modify the EA500, the performance you get from the modified EA500 is very, very impressive. And then finally here the graph of the EA1000, and let me just take away the EA500, and as you can see, the base of the of the 1000 and the LM is basically the same. And even the rest of it's very, very similar. It just sits within a tighter window. The gain that you have for the bass is the gain that you have for the mids. Just gives a warmer tonality, a warmer timbre. So if you like the more organic kind of presentation, definitely the 1000 is the better one. If you want a more clinical presentation, then the LM is the one to go for. Okay. As I mentioned as well while I was doing the review, I did on the 1000. This is just for the sake of just showing you guys. I did some small mods, and the EA1000 with the gold nozzle in stock format is this graph here. Okay, this is the stock gold nozzle. If you then modify it slightly like I did, you get this presentation, which basically maintains the bass and just cleans those peaks up, and this one plays very, very nicely, mind you. And then I also did another let's take away the 500 quickly, and then I did another mod, which is this one here, which uses again the gold nozzle, but I did another small mod there, which is, if you look at the gold nozzle internally, it's got a filter which closes the aperture to a much smaller size than the 4 point something mil external diameter is. And if you remove that, you take away this peak and you push things in terms of the pin again slightly forward. But then again, with the addition of the filters that I did on the nozzle, you get this nice plateau here on the sound, which you could argue, okay, gives me something very similar to the one with the 500. Yes, it is. I'm not going to deny with the 500, the stock EA1000 with the normal red filter. Yes, they are very similar, but in my version, and again, it's very difficult to actually try and find words to describe it. I get just a little extra amount of smoothness across this whole area. It's not huge. Trust me, it is not huge, but just a little bit more smoothness. But honestly, you know what? They are so similar that I wouldn't even say go ahead and do this particular mod. If you want to try a mod on the EA1000, just then do this one here, which is quite interesting. This mod is a very simple mod. You just basically add a 400 grade filter on top of the stock nozzle grill that's there, and that's it, and you will get this profile, and it sounds really, really nice. It sounds really nice. It gives you even more of an organic type of sound, if that's what you're after. Anyway, this is not about the EA1000, although I got a little bit carried away. This is about the LM, which is this graph. It sounds really good. It sounds fantastic. Just for the sake of comparison, I've got here as well the Whizzer and the Tantrum. The Whizzer is this graph here, and as you can see, there's a lot of similarities between the LM and the Whizzer. Very, very similar. I mean, the graph I think speaks for itself. and compared with the tungsten, the oxygen, and this is a series 2. Again, a lot of similarities, and the LM edges out the oxygen, especially is in how cleaner this area here is without bringing it to like it being edgy or harsh or anything of the sort. And that's it, guys. Hope I was able to clarify things about the upcoming LM. I think it's another winner for SIMGOT, definitely, and definitely an IM that's going to be a reference by which other companies must kind of inevitably compare themselves to if they want to have an IM that stands a chance to compete in this ever so dog, well, not dog market, but I mean things are insane. You know, you either make something which is that is truly going to be special, then you're just going to be wasting resources and time and money because you're not going to sell anything. That's the way I look at it. All right. Anyway, as always, like and subscribe. And if there's any questions you want me to answer, please feel free to do so. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.